Hi guys, it's Candace. So about, maybe about a week ago now, I don't know when I'm gonna upload these videos, I made a video about my most recent unexplainable experiences that I had. So I figured I would maybe make another one because it's pretty close to Halloween. Basically, I hate talking about these things because I feel like I'm nuts. I feel like I'm one of those people that believes in, crazy conspiracy theories or, some very just some very odd things like alien abductions or things like that. Another one of my experiences was kind of a while back. As you guys know, I went to school in the Philippines I was living in the Philippines from when I was 3 to when I was 9. This one time that I experienced something, I was maybe 7 years old. I was 7 years old and it was Ash Wednesday. I specifically remember our teacher saying, telling us to pray. So she said, bow your heads and start praying. So the whole class did as she, told us to do. So I bowed my head and I started praying, and as I did that, I could feel somebody's right hand on my head, and every time I would lift it up, it would kind of like dissipate. I would look around and see who it was. There's nobody there. Our teacher is a female. There's no guy there. Like, these hands felt like very big, like sausages almost. It was very heavy. I don't know what it is. I can't explain it till this day. I remember my teacher kind of had a kind of oh my god reaction when I had told her about it. She didn't really say anything. I just said, oh wow, I can feel a hand on my head every time I pray. And then of course all the other kids started to say, oh yeah, me too, me too, me too. But I could see from my teacher's reaction, this was not a normal thing. Now there's no like superstitions or anything like that about, oh, when you pray somebody's gonna put their hand on you and you're blessed or whatever. I never heard of anything like that, so it wasn't my imagination. I wasn't expecting somebody to put their hands on my head. At some point we go back to the United States, and periodically I'll go back to the Philippines to visit. So when I was about maybe 18 years old, I went to the Philippines to visit, and some old classmates found out I was visiting, so they found out where I lived and decided to visit me. So then I started to tell them, we somehow got into the conversation, so I started to tell them about my experiences because we all went to that same school. So I told them about the Ash Wednesday, and then one of the girls starts to tell me about this thing. So in the Philippines, sometimes we believe that spirits live in trees, or essentially that's what it is. So she started to tell me about this thing called a capre, which is like this really giant bad guy, I guess, like an evil spirit, and they live in trees or whatever. And there was a rumor going around that this tree right outside of my classroom had this thing in it. I never heard of this rumor. It was the first time I was hearing about it, but I don't know, it still doesn't really explain anything to me, but that's maybe an explanation. I have no idea. It makes me feel like I'm nuts. The scariest experience I had was not any of these that you've just heard, but the scariest one, this is probably the weirdest one out of them all. So maybe a year after that, I think it was like summer vacation, because I remember being like really bored at home. My mom and I lived in this house that was built by my grandparents, and we were the only ones that lived there. Nobody else lived with us. My dad did not live with us in the Philippines. He lived in the United States. So my mom is you know, outside washing the clothes by hand. And I'm bored out of my mind because it's, you know, between noon and 2 p.m. and it's really hot and no one wants to go and play outside and everybody's still inside eating lunch or doing whatever. I told my mom I was bored, and my mom's favorite pastime at the time was to ignore me and told me to basically keep still. So, you know, I did, especially because it was hot. You know, one of the things she tells me is if it's hot, don't move. There's like this bench in the outside porch where she was washing the clothes, not dishes, clothes. So I sit down and I keep as still as possible, trying to basically not kill myself over boredom. So as I'm sitting there, it starts to get cold and I start to think, oh wow, this advice that my mom gave me about sitting still and not being warm is totally true. But then it started to get really cold, like somebody had opened the freezer door right next to you. I didn't think anything of it, you know, I'm just thinking that my mom's advice was working. Until now, outside on the porch, there's like a door here and a door here to go in and out of our house, and the bench was like over here. So my mom was around this area doing the laundry, and from the corner of my eye I see my dad, who is not in the Philippines, by the way. I see my dad like looking at me and working his way over. I was kind of in shock because again, my dad is halfway across the world. He's not in this house. My mom doesn't see him because this thing, whatever it was, walked behind her. You know, I was so shocked. I was just kind of looking at this thing's face. Looked exactly like my dad, everything. I did not have a chance to like look at the feet because it seemed like this thing was like floating, like it wasn't walking. So I was in disbelief, so I kept my eyes open for as long as I could. And I remember thinking, don't blink, don't blink, don't blink, because I wanted to make sure that I was actually seeing what I was seeing, because it was impossible for my dad to be where I was. Then I started to yell. I'm like keeping my eyes on this thing. I'm like, Mom, Mom, turn around, Mom, turn around. And she's not turning around. And I'm like, Mom, turn around. So this thing is now on my left side, still maintaining eye contact. Mom, Mom, turn around. And I get frustrated because she's not turning around. So I look over at my mom because I'm like, you know, I kept my eye on this thing for a long time. If I move my head and look at my mom and look back quick enough, this thing isn't gonna disappear. But it did. So when I looked at my mom and yelled at her to turn around, she finally turns around when this thing is freaking gone. Until this day, I'm so frustrated that she did not turn around, because she would have been the only person to witness this with me. So I said, I look over to where this thing was. It's not there anymore. I run to where I last saw it. I run all over the house, in every room, looking for this thing, and I come back downstairs to my mom and I'm like, Mom, like, where's Dad? And she's like, what the hell are you talking about? Your dad's not here, he's in the United States. Jokes like that aren't good. You know, you'll get bad luck or something. I was never a kid to joke around like that, you know. I still don't know what this was. The same girl that I was talking to before about the previous instances of this happening, she basically said that there's like shapeshifters. I don't know if I believe in that, but it was definitely not my imagination, because my mom recalls me, you know, trying to tell her to turn around. I was never the kid to have like imaginary friends. I can't explain this. I don't know if you guys have had any of these experiences. If you have, comment them below, and please also tell me what next video I should make.